Hello everyone, this is Sam from Language Atlas, and in this video, I'd like to show you the Portuguese B1 vocabulary Anki. In this video, we will go over three things. First, I'd like to show you the course structure of the Portuguese B1 vocabulary Anki. Second, I'd like to show the course content, and I'll do so by having a look at three Anki decks within the overall Portuguese B1 vocabulary Anki. And third, I'd like to show you some brief editing options. So let's get started with the first point, which is to show the course structure. You may have noticed that I have two versions of Portuguese B1 vocabulary. I have a European one and a Brazilian one. Now, the European one refers to the Portuguese that's being spoken in Portugal, and the Brazilian one, of course, refers to the Portuguese that's being spoken in Brazil. Now, I've already opened them by double-clicking on them, as you can see right over here. And I'll begin by showing you the course structure of the European Portuguese B1 vocabulary architect. Now, I would like to know that in terms of course structure, both of these versions are exactly the same. However, when it comes to the course content, so what you see inside, the words, the sentences, the audio, the pronunciation, the IP notations, that is what is different. So I'll show you this one first, and then I'll go to the Brazilian one. You can see inside the European version, we have 8 chapters: pronouns, conjunctions, verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and determiners. Now, if I go to chapter 4 nouns and I click on this little plus icon in front of it, you can see that there are 20 subdecks inside chapter 4 nouns. They range from academia, intellect, and animals, all the way until time, maths, and numbers, and transportation. Now, what I've done is that I've taken a look at all the different nouns inside chapter 4 nouns, and I've categorized them by theme. So if you wish to learn more about clothing and fashion, you can do so. If you wish to learn more about food and drinks, you can do so. If you wish to learn more about nature and environment, you can do so. Whatever you're interested in, whichever theme you want to learn more about, you are able to learn more about that theme. So very quickly, that was the European Portuguese B1. Now I'd like to show you the Brazilian one. Now I'm going to click on the little plus icon over here, and you can see, again, in terms of course structure, it's the same. We have the same 8 chapters: pronouns, conjunctions, verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and determiners. If I go to this little icon over here in front of chapter 4 nouns, you can see we have the same 20 subdecks, ranging from academia, intellect, and animals, all the way until time, maths, numbers, and transportation. So that was my first point, to show you the course structure. Now I'd like to go to my second point, which is to show you the course content. And I mentioned before that I'll do so by having a look at 3 Anki decks within the overall Portuguese B1 vocabulary Anki deck. I will show you chapter 4 nouns, and then to be a bit more precise, home within chapter 4 nouns. I will show you chapter 5 adjectives, and I will show you chapter 3 verbs. And the first 2 nouns and adjectives I will show you within Brazilian Portuguese, and the last one, chapter 3 verbs, I will show you within European Portuguese. So even if you're interested in the other version of Portuguese, please keep watching, because again, as I mentioned, in terms of course structure and the way the cards are set up, they're exactly the same. But the words, the sentences, the audio, the pronunciation, the IPA, that is what's different. So setup-wise, they're the same, but what's inside is different. So I'll begin with chapter 4 nouns, and I will go to home. I'll click on study now, and this is what we see. This is the first card type. We see a Portuguese sentence with 2 blank areas. Underneath it, we see the English translation of the Portuguese sentence. We need to schedule a repair for our broken fence. You can see that a repair is bold and underlined. So it means that you have to know what a repair is in Portuguese. This is what it goes over here. Underneath that, you see a visual representation of the Portuguese sentence, so a picture. And many studies have shown that if you have a visual representation, it's easier for you to understand what you're learning, the words, the concept, the sentence. So in my opinion, this really helps, and studies have shown this too. So what is a repair in Portuguese? Let's have a look.
Nós precisamos marcar concerto para a nossa cerca quebrada. O reparo, reparo, o concerto, concerto. Os reparos, reparos, os concertos, concertos.
So great. Now what we see is that we have 3 areas. We have the first area, which is what I like to call the sentence area. The second area is the singular area. And the third area is the plural area. So if we start over here in the sentence area, we can see that we have the correct Portuguese sentence. And over here, we have the article and noun that we're looking for. So what's interesting here is that this is actually color-coded. You can see that it's blue. Why is this the case? Well, Portuguese is a gendered language. You have the masculine gender and the feminine gender. And masculine nouns are shown in blue, and feminine nouns are shown in pink. So it's easier for you this way to identify the gender of nouns, and easier to memorize them as well. So underneath the Portuguese sentence, we have an IPA notation of the Portuguese sentence. So this is there so you can improve your pronunciation. Underneath that, we have the English translation of the Portuguese sentence. And finally, we have the audio.
Nós precisamos marcar um concerto para a nossa cerca quebrada.
The second area is the singular area, so the singular noun area. In this case, we have actually two versions to say to the repair, but we have the indefinite and definite version, and again indefinite definite. We have the IP notation and we have the English translation.
O reparo, o concerto, concerto.
And again, we have the same thing for the plural area. You have the plural way in both definite and indefinite, and another version to say it. We have the IP notation, and we have the English translation, and finally, audio.
Os reparos, os concertos, uns concertos.
So great, we have synonyms. Now, let's do another one. He picked up a pack of chips at the store. A pack.
Ele comprou pacote de batatas fritas na loja. O pacote, pacote. Os pacotes, uns pacotes.
Right. Your curtain is blocking the view. Can you please move it?
A sua cortina está bloqueando a vista. Pode movê-la, por favor? A cortina, uma cortina. As cortinas, umas cortinas.
Right. Your stuff is all over the place. Stuff.
As suas coisas estão por toda parte. A coisa, uma coisa. As coisas, umas coisas.
Now, you may have noticed an interesting difference over here. This is in pink. Why is it in pink? That is because stuff is feminine in Portuguese. So masculine blue, feminine pink. The heating in your house is not working properly. The heating.
O aquecimento na sua casa não está funcionando corretamente. O aquecimento, aquecimento. Os aquecimentos, uns aquecimentos.
Let's do one more. I found a string on the floor. How do you say a string?
Eu encontrei fio no chão. O fio, fio. Os fios, uns fios.
Great. Let's go to the second car type. And this is the second car type. And before we saw a sentence, and we've seen this one before, and we had to know what goes inside the blank area. Now we have to type in the correct answer. So how do you type the correct answer? How do you spell it correctly? So right now I'm going to enter the correct answer.
Nós precisamos marcar concerto para a nossa cerca quebrada. O reparo, o concerto, concerto. Os reparos, uns reparos, os concertos, uns concertos.
So if the answer is completely correct, it shows up in green. However, what if you do not know the correct answer? What if you do something like this?
Ele comprou pacote de batatas fritas na loja. O pacote, pacote. Os pacotes, uns pacotes.
You can see that in terms of article, it's correct. However, over here, I made a mistake. So the few letters that I had correct are shown in green, but what I had wrong is shown in red. So this is a mistake, these two and these two as well. And what I should have had is shown here in gray. So Anki actually corrects you when you make a mistake and shows you what you did wrong. So this is really helpful if you want to study the spelling of vocabulary. I could continue like this, but I think you get the picture. It'd be more typing exercises. Now I'd like to go to the second deck, which is chapter 5 adjectives. I will click on study now. And we see the same setup. We see a Portuguese sentence with a blank area. We see the Portuguese translation in English. So you see the translation of the Portuguese sentence. You are horrible to each other, and horrible is bold and underlined. And we have a picture. Let's see what horrible is in Portuguese.
Vocês são horríveis com o outro. Horrível. Horríveis.
So again, we see the same setup. We see a sentence area, we see a singular area, and we see a plural area. You are unlikely to succeed. Unlikely.
É improvável que você tenha êxito. Improvável. Improváveis.
He isn't dressed yet.
Ele ainda não está vestido. Vestido, vestida. Vestidos, vestidas.
And now this is where things get interesting. Now, I mentioned before that Portuguese is a gendered language, and this shows in adjectives as well. Not all adjectives, but a lot of them are actually gendered as well. So over here, we can see a singular masculine, we see a singular feminine, and over here, we see a plural masculine and a plural feminine. So there are four versions. But what's great about this Anki deck is that you see all of them. You can see the IPA notation, you can see the audio, pardon me, you can hear the audio.
Vestido, vestida. Vestidos, vestidas.
So this really helps you learn the Portuguese language. It's painful to watch them play. Painful.
É doloroso assistir a eles jogarem. Doloroso, dolorosa. Dolorosos, dolorosas.
And again, same setup. We have this sentence area, we have the singular area, but then different versions. So masculine singular, feminine singular. And over here, plural masculine, plural feminine. We are amazed by the results. Amazed.
Nós estamos maravilhados com os resultados. Maravilhado, maravilhada. Maravilhados, maravilhadas.
We can do one more. I'm disappointed with the outcome.
Eu estou desapontado com o resultado. Desapontado, desapontada. Desapontados, desapontadas.
And if I were to continue long enough and far enough, I would end up with the typing exercises. However, we've already seen that before, so I won't show you again. But essentially, you have to type in the correct answer. So those were the two decks that I want to show you from Brazilian Portuguese. Now I'd like to go to the third and final deck from European Portuguese. And again, I'm going to click on this little icon over here, and I will click on Chapter 3 Verbs, starting now. So we have the Portuguese sentence with a blank area. We have the English translation of the Portuguese sentence, and of course, a certain part bold and underlined. They will frighten the children. And you see this picture.
Eles vão assustar as crianças. Assustar.
Now, you may have already noticed the difference. The audio is different, the pronunciation is different, and of course, because of that, the IPA notation is different as well. Now, I mentioned before you have Brazilian Portuguese and European Portuguese, and of course, there are differences. There are differences in words, differences in sentences, naturally in audio and pronunciation as well, and this translates to different IPA notations too. So, please be mindful of whichever Portuguese version you choose because there are differences and you have noticed them. So, in terms of setup, again, we see the same thing. Portuguese sentence, IPA notation, translation, audio.
Eles vão assustar as crianças.
And this is true for the verb area as well. But I would like to highlight one thing when it comes to verbs. All the verbs in chapter 3 verbs are in the infinitive form. They are in the full verb form. Why is this relevant? If you want to conjugate verbs, if you want to play with them, adjust according to different tenses and subject pronouns, you have to know the full verb form first, and then you can do things with them. So once you know the full verb form, once you know the infinitive, it's easier to play with them, understand them, and do things with them. So everything you will encounter will be in the full verb form. So you can see the full verb in Portuguese, the IPA notation, and English translation, and finally audio.
Assustar.
Be aware that drinking too much can result in a hangover.
Esteja ciente de que beber em excesso pode resultar numa ressaca. Resultar.
I wanted to kiss my wife. To kiss.
Eu queria beijar a minha esposa. Beijar.
And again in the infinitive form. She likes to spread good feelings. To spread.
Ela gosta de espalhar bons sentimentos. Espalhar.
You have to stop treating your dog for no reason.
Tu tens de parar de mimar o teu cão sem motivo. Tratar, mimar.
He's planning to retire this year. To retire.
Ele está a planear reformar-se este ano. Reformar.
I don't know how to fry fish. To fry.
Eu não sei como fritar peixe. Fritar.
And we can do one more. To claim innocence without evidence is not helpful.
Reivindicar inocência sem evidências não é útil. Reivindicar.
And we will see more sentences if we continue. And finally, we end up with the typing exercises. But we've seen them before, so I won't go over them again. So that was my second point, which is to show you the course content. Now I'd like to go to my third point, which is to show you some brief editing options. Now, a question I get asked often is, how do you regulate how many new cards you see per day? Well, it's very simple. Go over here, click on this little icon, click on options, and you can see this area over here, daily limits. And we can change new cards per day from 20 to 50. So we see 50 new cards per day. And we can change maximum reviews a day from 20 to 50. And a review is essentially something that you have done before that you will see again. So a review. Click on save, and you can see that numbers have increased. I can change this again. Options from 50 to 20. From 50 and 20, I can decrease it. Click on save. And you can see that the total amounts have decreased. My advice to you would be to start with a low number and then work your way up. So I think it's good to start with 20, for example. The reason for this is that language learning is all about creating a habit and sticking to it. And it's easier to do so if you start with a low number. Then, of course, you can work your way up once you have established that habit. So that was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my explanation of the Portuguese B1 vocabulary Anki deck. You can get the deck at languageatlas.com. I will share all the links in the description and comment section. I wish you the best of luck when it comes to learning the Portuguese language, and I wish you a very good day as well. Goodbye.